Live. If you're hearing someone's laughing, that's Stephen. Welcome back, Stephen.
It's me again.
It's you again. And I know that for those of you who were waiting for us on Tuesday to watch us live, recording live, because I don't know if you know this, if you're new to this program, you probably didn't know that we have one very big similarity to the likes of Taylor Swift, for example, because we record our performance live and then we re-upload and post it so that you can listen to it, you can watch it when you do your normal daily activities, including when you're walking. Believe it or not, Steven, a lot of our customers or listeners, because normally people who listen to our product or to our podcast also are using our products, they are listening to our episodes while they are walking their dog or walking their kids to go to school in the morning.
That's fantastic. And also, I did want to point out that we don't do costume changes during this session. So any of the Swifties out there who are expecting sparkles, costume changes, fireworks, backup dancers, we don't have those yet. And I
Yeah,
won't say yet.
I was about to say yet, but if you are interested in watching us doing a mid-show costume change, please do let us know. Go to our socials at Ask Dr. Vincent. We're everywhere. Just drop us a note and we'll see what we can do.
That sounds awesome.
Well, today's topic was driven by you. So why don't you do us an honor to introduce this topic this week?
Thanks very much, Dr. Vincent. So I've been a Sydney sider for all my life. And I think that there are certain parts of Sydney that have things associated with them. And when I moved into the inner west, one of the things that really jumped out at me was in every cafe, there was avocado on toast. Now, I know that as a Sydney sider, it's the cool thing. It is the breakfast that has apparently stopped the other generations buying houses because it's so expensive. But the thing is about avocado and toast, and this is what I wanted to talk about today, I don't like avocado.
And is that there for you on your house?
Well, maybe it helped putting forward a deposit that I don't eat avocado. I eat halloumi, and that's the other one.
Squeaky cheese.
But I sit in cafes on the weekend and I look around and there are all of these people having their avocado on toast and saying how wonderful it is, and whether it's a few sprinkles of chili salt or just pepper or eggs, boiled eggs, fried eggs, etc. Avocado really is a focus food for the inner west and for many other places in Sydney as well. And I was feeling like maybe there's something wrong with me. Why don't I like avocado?
Well, that is something that is very interesting. That when I read your note about the avocado, I actually didn't read the rest of it because I got so fixated with avocado. Because one of the things that I found really weird about Australian food was that Western people or Australian people eat avocado in a savory way. It's part of savory dish, whereas in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, we eat avocado as a sweet dish, as a dessert.
As a dessert,
we mix it with Milo or chocolate powder and sweet condensed milk, and that is what we call a smoothie.
You might be winning me over. That's right. There's hello out of the Philippines.
That is correct. And one of the things that I noticed is with the consumption of avocado, the way people consume avocado here in Australia is that you don't mush it, you don't mash it. It's actually either being sliced or roughly chopped or roughly mashed instead of being smooth, you know? So I wonder, have you ever thought about it, whether your feelings towards avocado, was it the taste or was it the texture? Because Kathleen, which is our operation manager here, she doesn't like avocado. She hates avocado.
Yay!
But not. She's not Sydney, Eastern Sydney suburb though. But it is not because of the taste and flavor. It is actually because of the texture. As a matter of fact, she would tell you that if she puts avocado in her mouth, it's almost like she doesn't know what to do with it.
That makes sense to me. I think I probably started disliking the texture.
Okay,
But then the crazy thing is that I eat durian,
but it's sweet.
but it's sweet. That's very
So
true.
I think
I find avocado has this like soury kind of flavor that I don't like. And then again, I find that's a little bit weird as well. And hence the topic. I really want to get to the bottom of this because I really love calamansi. I really love lime and lemon and all of these things, olives, uh, anchovies, all of these things
that you acquire the
that you
taste
acquire the
for.
taste for. But I've never acquired the taste uh, for avocado.
I'm probably onto something here. I think it's the texture
Mm,
because when I used to lecture food science and human nutrition, one of the topics that I was really good at, and because I was really interested in it, is a topic called organoleptic. So, organoleptic or a sensory behavior or perception of food, people only think, or most of us only think food when it comes to taste.
yeah.
However, our tongue is actually quite limited when it comes to responding and delivering this stimuli to our brain. There are a lot of other way that our body interacts with food. One of that is the touch, which is the
The
texture and
texture.
mouthfeel, as well as our olfactory, so the smell. And when we talk about flavor, flavor by definition is actually a combination of all of these things, not just about taste. And when it comes to avocado, for example, it took me a while before I enjoy avocado in a savory way because my brain associate this food because growing up I was eating it in
Mm,
a sweet form, in a sweet dish
yes,
as a
yes.
sweet dessert. There was a mismatch between what I ate and what my brain expected when I first ate avocado as
Got
part
it.
of a sandwich, for example, or as one of the fillings of sushi roll. So I think, like everything else that we've covered so far, Stephen, what we eat, how we perceive taste and flavor, and the smell of food has a lot to do with how we are being brought up, how our
That's it.
body has been responding to this type of flavor, this type of texture,
And what we're used to.
and what we are used to. So
That makes
I
sense.
I do think that it's probably the texture because when you say that you like durian, you enjoy durian, which I don't know why. As an Asian person, I always feel so proud when a white person loves durian. And I
I
always
I do have to say that I prefer durian in, one of the pastry puffs.
okay.
That's
y-
my favorite way of eating durian.
And conversely, I thought that I always think when an Asian person doesn't like durian, I think they are the traitor.
Something wrong.
There's something wrong with them.
Now you know how I feel about avocado.
There you
Um,
go. So you feel that there's something wrong with you.
let's go back to the
Yes.
because that's really interesting. I know during COVID, one of the problems, that a lot of people found when they got COVID, was that they lost some of their sense of smell.
Yes.
And so I guess by extension, that means that those people, whether they recovered their smell or not, had a different food experience.
Exactly. And perhaps for those of you who just joined in, you probably think that this is just food. It doesn't actually have a real concrete significant health effect. But if you think about it, when people lose their sense of smell or their sense of smell has been dulled or
Mm.
dialed down, what they usually do is that they increase the amount of sodium or sugar or
More
fat
salt, yeah.
in the food that they're cooking or they're preparing because they need to compensate for that gap in what they're eating and what their brain is expecting when it comes to taste.
Mm.
And long term, this can actually cause a lot of issues like hypertension, circulatory problem, as well as kidney and liver health issue. But going back to the loss of smell, just imagine if you lose one of your senses that out of the five that makes up the food experience, of course that changes people's perspective when it comes to food. It changes their nutrient intake because
Mm.
one of the things that I have a lot of issue when it comes with ultra processed foods is the use of artificial sweetener or the use of artificial flavoring. They are all legal and largely safe. The issue with that is when you are eating something that is being flavored, say for example with banana
Mm.
flavor, your brain expects that this food item will deliver potassium intake to your body.
Yes.
Because over time, through evolution, this is how our ancestors hunted for food, gathered food by using all of the senses. So when you're eating something that is artificially flavored, your mouth get the promise, but your brain and body gets nothing.
So the nutrients are missing because
Yes,
it's just a flavoring.
exactly. And what
Yeah.
happens is that over time, your brain thought that, wow, you're not eating enough. This is the reason why people overeat when it comes to ultra processed foods, because their brain is still missing what is being promised, and they keep eating because the brain doesn't send the full signal to the body.
Dr. Vincent, thank you so much. You've validated my question that I ask of the cafes, whether the banana smoothie that I order, which I always order with full fat milk and ice cream if possible. I know
And
that
cream
it's
on
bad
top.
for me. Actually, the cream I'm not so keen on, but full fat milk and banana. I always ask if it's real banana
Yes.
or if it's flavoring, because if it's flavoring, I'm just not going to enjoy it the same way. And everyone else at the table groans. So there's the guy who doesn't eat the avocado but asks about real banana.
Well, I guess if you're going to pay for a banana smoothie, the least that they can do is to tell you whether or not it's a banana smoothie or banana flavored smoothie.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying this to assign blame for people who don't really care whether it's banana or banana flavored milk or milkshakes, but I do believe that if as a company I have to disclose all of the ingredients, because
Mhm.
for fair advertisement, I think people should be able to ask as well. And knowing you, I know that you wouldn't ask in the rude way,
No,
forgive me,
that's
in the
very true.
Karen way.
Yeah.
Um,
And there was a time, there was a couple of cyclones that went through all of Australia's banana growing regions.
yeah,
And so bananas were super expensive. And I didn't ask at that point because I didn't expect, a $10 smoothie to include $20 worth of bananas.
there you go. So common sense. And the other thing about common sense is that sometimes I always like to draw the scientific explanation as well as the things that we're discussing, Stephen, to a real life experience that probably would be easier for people to relate to. A lot of
Mm,
people, including Christian, absolutely hate plain foods.
yes.
And to me, I know for a fact that having been to the massive kitchen that prepare all of this food, they are
Mm,
actually good quality food that have been prepared with a lot of care, with good recipes. I mean, Neil Perry
yep. Yeah.
was
So
a
you're
golden
you're talking about airline food.
airline food. Yes,
And not only, I guess, the business class food, which and some people fly business class. I wish that I could, but
Sorry,
uh,
I just thought that, oh my God, I wish that I'm complaining about business class food. No, I'm talking about the regular people.
the regular people food still prepared with a lot of care. I
That's
think.
correct. They are being cooked in big volume and in bulk, which is, to feed the masses. However, there is nothing wrong with them. The issue is not with the food. A lot of people complain that it's tasteless or it's dry
Mm,
or it's just not very appetizing. The issue is not even with our tongue. It's mainly because our nose is dry.
I
And
see. At
and
the
and
increased altitude, is that?
with the increased altitude, the filtered air, the
Of
reduced
course.
humidity in the pressurized cabin, that reduces our ability to perceive the flavor. The taste is still there, and they compensate it with higher amount of salt or
Yeah.
the umami taste. However, when it comes to the whole experience of enjoying the food, it's our what we call a retronasal olfaction. So basically, when you are chewing a meal, when you're chewing the food, the molecules that are being released when you're chewing it actually it doesn't just go into your tummy. It actually has a negative and positive feedback with your olfactory system, with your sense of smell, and that together with what your tongue is tasting form a flavor that your brain either like or dislike.
Wow. So, is there any way for people who fly all the time and hate the food to change that in some way? Is there something that
Yes.
Christian could do so that he could enjoy plain food?
Yes, not that he would believe me, but make sure that you're well hydrated, number one. And number two, it's always really good to awaken your senses with things like uh, virgin Bloody Mary or Bloody Mary with vodka, like just real Bloody
Mm,
Mary. It's fine. The main ingredient that helps with this is not the vodka. It is actually the spices and tomato juice. So
yeah.
that really stimulate your taste bud as well as
Mm.
the sense of smell. And if you begin with that, you're literally lubricating and preparing your system to enjoy the food that you're being served with. And I do believe that because I, for one, really like airlines food. I don't know why. I feel that there's a place where I could just eat without feeling guilty because what else are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah.
And because I have that, it's not really a romanticized version of food, but it's the feeling that's associated with flying. I love flying
Mm.
and eating or while flying. So the airline food is part of the
Yeah, yeah.
experience because I don't know if you agree with me, but our memory about something, our psychological association with certain type of food plays an important and a big role in terms of us enjoying the food or not.
I think that it's the whole experience, and as we've discussed in a previous episode as well, it's a little bit about that community as well.
Yes,
Flying as much as I have in the past by myself. Actually, it's really nice to share a champagne with somebody who might be sitting next to you, or the the group behind you might be ordering something specific. I know when sitting in the lounge at any time of the day or night, uh, the first person who orders an espresso martini, typically then you hear the shaker go every 5 or 10 minutes after that as everyone else orders one as well.
yes,
But I
and
think that you've probably explained a couple of things for me. The first one is that if you are lucky enough to fly business class, they come through the cabin and offer champagne. And I'm sure that the champagne starts to stimulate the taste buds as well.
that's correct.
And then even down the back of the plane, or from row 4 onwards, they distribute really super salty nuts,
That's
and
correct.
that probably does the same thing. Is that right?
That is completely right because champagne tends to be brut or dry, and that stimulates the production of your saliva through stimulating your salivatory glands,
Mm.
and the same thing with the saltiness, and all of this together. This is not just culinary, but it's also food science and understanding how our body works. And I do believe that this is something that we can take into practice whenever we are we have people in our life or when you have kids who don't eat certain things.
Mm.
And I think sometimes people get like you, for example, you feel that you are failing at expanding your taste bud or your food repertoire if you don't like something. I do believe that we can trick our brain into liking something
Okay.
to a certain extent because there are people who are called the super tasters. It doesn't matter how much you train them, they will still not like coriander
Mm.
because the gene inside them express themselves in the way that your taste bud can notice that soapy bitter flavor from plants
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
coriander,
And it doesn't change.
and it doesn't change because it is part of your DNA. It's part of who you are that makes you who you are.
Yeah, fascinating. Is that the same for chili, for example, as well?
This is really interesting because spiciness, so chili, it is actually not a flavor nor it is a taste. It is basically a tiny micro nano inflammation that is caused by the active ingredients capsaicin. I don't know how you pronounce that.
So it's pain,
It is
essentially.
pain. So people who like spiciness, they are literally culinary masochists. Yes, and like
I
pain,
need a T-shirt that says that, I think.
yeah, and like pain, you can train. I don't know. Don't ask me why I know this. Like pain, you can train yourself to tolerate a higher level of spiciness,
Yeah.
so more intense spiciness, because that's how your body tolerates it. And I'm saying this not to stop you from eating spicy food or chili, because it helps your circulatory system. It also helps your body to burn fat to create energy. And the reason why eating spicy food can whet your appetite is actually not because it's a flavor. It is because the same way that champagne, sparkling wine, or salty nuts awakens your taste bud, this spiciness, this micro inflammation in your mouth, on your tongue, really awakens the taste bud to make you a lot more alert and a lot more sensitive to different types and layers of flavors. And that's the reason why in Indonesia we have a saying: if you want to not eat a lot of rice, don't eat it with chili or with sambal. Because if you serve something with sambal, the saying is that you will eat twice the amount
You'll eat twice
of.
as much rice
That's
to
correct.
offset
To
the
offset
chili.
that chili,
Yeah.
the spiciness.
So do you get used to higher amounts of chili and
Totally. I I used to feel really embarrassed because after living here in Australia, when I went back home, I couldn't tolerate as the level of spiciness that I used to be able to tolerate. And that has a lot to do with the exposure with what I have been eating here in Australia. And I love spicy food. Not to the point that it numbs you and all you can taste is spicy,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I love that level of spiciness that's probably higher than your regular Australian. However, I can't really do that every day here. Whereas back home when I was younger, that's basically just the standard. That's a normal serving of chili. So yes, you can train yourself to like or tolerate spiciness, but at the same time, you can also lose your ability to tolerate the level of spiciness if you have stopped eating spicy food for a while.
Wow. So those who like spicy foods should continue to eat spicy foods so that they maintain
They maintain their
their
ability to
level.
tolerate it. That's correct. And the other really interesting thing that I've learned about chili, or how chili became part of certain culture, for example, the Sichuan region in China,
Mm,
it is actually a landlocked region. For all intents and purpose, it shouldn't actually have the exchange of culture because Chile is not endemic in China.
yeah.
It shouldn't have the exchange of culture, including food culture, being landlocked, because usually
Mm.
all of this new imported culture in the past happens in the coastal region
Yeah, it
of
would be traders on a boat
that's
moving
correct.
from place to place, faster to go by boat.
But the
Rivers.
reason why Sichuan food became the Sichuan food that we know today, with the inclusion of a lot of spices, chili, garlic, and onions and everything, is because being landlocked had its own benefits. And the main one was that it was so far away from the area of conflict. So because they were not busy fighting wars,
Mm,
they actually could explore other things that at that time was a luxury,
wow.
meaning experimentation with food, expanding the palate, using new ingredients, including new ingredients in their traditional recipes. And that's how Sichuan food became what it is today.
That's fascinating. I absolutely adore Szechuan food. In fact, my favorite Szechuan restaurant in Singapore, every time I'm up in Singapore, I'm easily the only Westerner who eats there.
That's how you know that's a good restaurant.
And actually, the last time I was there was a new waitress who came over to me, and she gave me the Chinese recipe. And I looked at it, and she said, "Oh, 1 minute, 1 minute." And she went off to try and find the English recipe. But I've been there so many times that by the time she came back,
They were like,
I
you
already
know
knew
what I
what
would
I
order.
would order.
And did they actually warn you that oh, but it's spicy, but
They
it's
were
spicy?
they were very concerned the first couple of times, and in fact, the chef came out because he wanted to see that I was eating what is my favorite dish there. It's freshwater eel with very very spicy chilies, bird's eye chilies,
Wow,
and
I know exactly what that dish is, because there is even in Indonesia you don't get that because there are many tribes and styles of Chinese food. It's just because it's Chinese, it's similar with Indian food.
mm,
Not all Indian food is curry. The same way with I
yeah,
can the name of this dish in Indonesia is called lindung chafumak. It means that lindung is that freshwater eel, but not every restaurant actually serves that because it is a specific tribe or subculture in China that actually specialize in this dish.
Our listeners and I learn so much every time we do one of these podcasts.
And that is being enabled because you have so many experiences all over the world. And sometimes I've never actually voiced this before, but I have a tiny little bit worried that you actually are more familiar with going about yourself in Singapore than I probably would, because which is actually also embarrassing because we're like an
I felt
hour
that.
away from Singapore.
Um, Vincent, let's move forward though, because
Yes.
one of the things about having spicy foods and hot foods, I know a lot of our listeners would be very familiar once you get a chili that's maybe just a little bit too hot, and I grow a chili which is just a little bit too hot. It's a very, very spicy habanero. Uh, and to cool it down, often you use fat. And so that might be dairy fat. But can you tell us what happens when you're adding fats to a chili or to spicy food? How does that work?
So fat and also the protein in either milk or yogurt or cream actually really helps to disrupt this active ingredients capsaicin from chili. So uh, in the chili world, we have this term called the Scoville level. The
Yes.
Scoville level or Scoville unit is basically how a spiciness of certain types of chili are being measured, and that has a lot to do with the amount of capsaicin in the chili. So
Right.
habanero, for example, has a higher Scoville unit compared to your bird eye chili, and at the same time, the Naga chili or
Mm.
Carolina Reaper,
Carolina Reaper,
Carolina,
about a
right,
billion, I think,
is a
Scoville
million
unit.
Scoville unit.
Yeah.
So in order to counteract this torture that capsaicin is doing to your taste
Pain.
bud, pain,
Pain.
pain, it needs to be disrupted. And the molecules is actually quite sensitive to the interference caused by fat or protein in either, yogurt, milk, or basically fatty food, cream,
Okay.
the dairy rich. That's the reason why dairy is usually used, because it has a good combination of fat and protein
Okay.
that can disrupt and interfere with how these molecules of capsaicin causing you pain. And that is actually a really good way, an analogy to explain away why I firmly believe that spiciness is not taste. So when you put chili paste on your skin, for example, there are no
Yeah.
taste buds on your skin.
Yeah.
You can still feel that spiciness.
Mm.
It's because the capsaicin is still doing the same thing, which is creating micro tears and inflammation on your skin.
Right. Got you. I mean, I know that some of those same molecules are used in pepper
Pepper
spray
spray.
to ward off bears, which luckily we don't need to do here in Australia.
I don't know if people know this or not. As an international student traveling at night, I used to always think that maybe I will carry pepper spray, which is illegal in
It's
Australia.
illegal here. Yeah.
It is illegal in Australia. So you know what is not illegal? A travel size hairspray. Don't tell anyone that you learned this from this podcast, but if you're here, may as well take advantage from my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, you're not going down dark alleys and things in the back of Sydney
No,
where you would
no,
require something like that.
no. But
Been a while.
you know what? I used to have long hair, and hairspray really helps me to keep it nice and stylish. I also want to talk about acquired taste,
Yeah.
Stephen, because I know as a kid, I don't like black coffee. As a kid, I don't like beer.
Mm.
I don't like wine. I didn't drink till I was 25. Don't worry, I have made up for lost times. But what I'm trying to talk about here is that, do you have the same experience, avocado aside, when it comes to acquired taste? Have you always liked, say, for example, you mentioned olives, because olives to
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people is also an acquired taste.
Definitely. I think there are two things about my love of olives, and I do really like olives now that I'm old. When I was younger,
Older.
older, yes. When I was younger, I definitely did not really like olives, but one component of that was the texture. So when I was younger, my family would have olives at the table before the main meal or over lunch or something like that, and the olives would be pre-pitted orange and a little bit squashy,
Okay.
and I just didn't go for that texture. I didn't really like them, and then when I put them in my mouth, I really felt that they were too
Mushy.
oily and
Ah,
mushy, and the texture didn't work for me. And so it was years later. In fact, when I met my wife, we had a very interesting start of our relationship. We were going out for about 6 weeks, and then we did a car travel trip to Adelaide, which involved getting in her BMW and driving to Adelaide, which is quite a distance. It's about 12 hours
the
from.
city of churches.
That's right, City of Churches. Uh, Adelaide's a great place. Adelaide has some amazing food. And so around Adelaide, I tasted olives. And having olives that were grown locally, were fresh, were some of the best olives in the world, in my opinion, completely changed my view of olives. And so now I'm an olive fan.
That is so interesting because I have almost a carbon copy story to your story. The way that you didn't like olives because of because of the texture was the same way that I didn't used to like cherries because being in Indonesia, we didn't grow cherries. We don't grow cherries there. All of cherries are imported.
Yeah.
And because of the length of time at that time, this is like what 20 years ago, the cherries will become mushy.
Mm.
And then I don't like that. But then when I arrived here in Australia and I ate cherries and I was like, I know the taste, but I don't recognize the texture. It's crisp. It's
Mm.
it's it's it has it it has a resistance when you
Yeah.
bite into it.
Sometimes it's
So
like biting into an apple.
that's correct. It's very crisp.
Mhm.
It's very
Yeah.
firm. And now I'm a cherry lover. So that is very interesting that how we perceive food um, form our opinion about it. And this goes to prove that that opinion can be changed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the other one that our listeners will also probably put in the same bucket of things that you grow to like are Brussels sprouts. Now, I'm still not a massive Brussels sprouts fan, but I think
I
how they were
tolerate,
prepared
yes,
when we were younger,
boiled.
essentially boil them until they're grey. That probably put generations of people off Brussels sprouts. They're great when they're super fresh, super.
You cut them in half, you
Yep.
pan fry it a little bit with bacon fats and everything,
Uh,
with
it's the
sprinkling
fat.
of
Come on,
and
it's
a
the fat.
sprinkling of onions. It's so good. It's crispy onions. Oh,
Little garlic. Yeah.
little garlic. But you know what? I probably haven't shared this with you all that Stephen is a culinary enthusiast, definitely, but also
Enthusiast.
an expert when it comes to certain food. As a matter of fact, last week after we concluded our live recording of our last week episode, I learned that there is this version of almost like an Indian baba ganoush.
Mm,
The reason I mention about that is because I like eggplant,
yeah.
but I don't necessarily like when eggplant is being made into things like baba ganoush because in Indonesia, the way that we eat eggplants is either fresh, so you eat it as almost a salad
Mhm.
with sambal, or you you batter and fry it the same way that the Japanese
I
would
see.
make into tempura. So the concept of baba ganoush, again, texture,
Mm,
it's something that is so bizarre to
and
me.
slightly stringy and a
Yes,
little weird, hard to understand.
I didn't even
Uh,
know that it was eggplant when I first tasted it,
yeah,
baba
yeah,
ganoush.
yeah. I do like a really good baba ganoush, by the way. But the Conundrum is an amazing use of eggplant, but also some other spices, mustards particularly, and a little bit of tomato. And it is one of the best things you can put on fish. I feel like at some point. Dr. Vincent, we could probably do like a cookbook. I know that earlier in your podcast years, you did release a couple of
Recipes?
recipes,
Yes.
which I saw people were cooking,
Yes.
which is pretty amazing as well. I feel like there's maybe a competition coming in our future.
That would be really, really good. And the other thing that came in mind as you were talking about that, Stephen, is that My Kitchen Rules, the TV show, is casting at the moment. I'm just putting it out there. I also want to talk about. I wanna bring this back to how our perception of taste actually affects not only our appetite but also our health in terms of our nutrition and our nutrient intake.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, say for example, who are super taster, we know that their vegetable intake is actually lower than people who don't have this gene expression. Because when you
Really?
don't like something that is bitter or soapy,
You
you
avoid it.
you avoid it. And vegetables comes packed with nutrients, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. So when people have a it's not even hatred, because you can't hate something that you are not biologically allowed to tolerate, right? So
Mm.
what are your thoughts around this? Because this is something that's really interesting when it comes to preparing food, for example.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's an interesting concept, that people who are more focused on the taste and the feeling of food uh, are going to gravitate more towards things that are in line with their taste senses. And I guess that makes sense. I have a very good friend of mine. Her mother does not. She lost her sense of smell and taste many years ago, and so texture is super important
Yes.
for her. But people who are the opposite of that, who have heightened senses around taste and smell, I guess sitting down to a meal of durian, if they don't like durian, would drive them crazy. Even like Vegemite probably also have
I
reactions.
this is one thing that there's a big assurance and reassurance when it comes to sometimes I get really. I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even explain this. So maybe you can try help me and guide me through this thought process, Stephen. So
Mm.
whenever people ask me where you're from, I normally say now Sydney.
Yes.
But then when people ask me where you're really from, I said that we're Indonesia. But then people who have been to Bali, for example, because Indonesia has
Mm.
17,000 islands. We have
It's
so many different tribes, right?
such a
Diverse.
diverse, amazing place. Yeah.
Yes. But Australians who have been to Bali usually associate Indonesian people with darker skin Indonesian.
Mm.
So they would, oh, but where you're really from? And I was, oh, well, heritage wise, I was the third generation of Chinese Indonesian born in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So you work a lot in the US. So we're going to the US to launch our ultra antioxidant brand there, right? When people ask me there, where are you from? How far back should I go and trace my heritage?
I think that you should say that you're an Australian. I think that is the right answer.
I think so too.
You
And the
live
reason
here.
why I brought this up, because my affinity, because I love Vegemite, and I will out Australian you when it comes to the thickness and darkness of Vegemite that I put on my toast. That's the reason why I said that my affinity towards Vegemite is a reassurance that I have always meant to be an Australian.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think that is as good a measure as any. Although I do know some Australians who don't like Vegemite, but that's your salty flavor that's
Yeah.
coming out.
And this is the thing, when it comes to Vegemite, I don't think there is a I don't think there is a specific smell or taste that is off-putting. I think it's the
Okay.
intensity of it. I
Mm.
do believe, I think if you, because I have used Vegemite cooking for my family,
Yeah.
even in Indonesia, but I use it as a flavor enhancer. So instead of using MSG, I would use
Mm.
Vegemite, because both of them
Mm.
are literally yeast extract that increases the
Yeah,
umami
exactly.
flavor,
I
right?
wonder which one's better for you.
I
We might need to do some
we
research on that.
that is a full episode, and if you're anything like Christian, I don't think we are allowed to branch into that right
No,
this
no, no.
moment.
Well, let's wrap up though.
Yeah,
Uh, let's come back to what you started saying about in terms of health. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier on was the COVID impact on smell. But should we be taking note of things that we suddenly don't like or that we suddenly feel that we should be having more of? After I do a lot of exercise, I really feel like milk. Now I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I can drink liters and liters of water, but if I have a single glass of milk, I feel better.
I do think that we should always listen to our body. Unfortunately, there are a lot of noises when it comes to how our brain perception of food has been altered.
Mm,
So the main issue that I have with ultra processed foods is that it interferes with our brain's ability to control what we eat. So ultra processed food
yeah.
are usually engineered around three things. The first one is the high intensity sugar, fat, and salt.
Hmm.
Number two, the softness. When I talk about softness, I'm not just talking about the mushy texture. It's about the transit time a food requires to be in your to be chewed, to be in your mouth. So
Right. Okay.
crisp or chips, for example, you don't associate them with being soft. However, once you crunch them, it literally melts away in your mouth.
Mm,
This is the reason why people can say that, oh, I don't even remember eating a bag of chips
yeah.
because your brain hasn't even processed that. And number three, the additional of the artificial sweetener, artificial flavoring that really confuses our brain because like the example of banana or your the urge for you to drink milk after exercise because milk is one of a complete protein when it comes to the amino acid profile. And when you exercise, you're creating this micro tear on your muscles that needs to be repaired. So that's your body
Okay.
telling you you need certain nutrients, and they associate these nutrients with certain types of food.
Mm,
The same way that people who are lack in zinc, for example, sometimes have that urge or that appetite for things like oysters, mussels, seafood because they are rich in zinc.
yeah.
And this is how our ancestor relied upon because they don't have dietary guideline back there. They don't have
Mm,
Google or influencer or chat GPT to tell them what to eat. They rely on the signal and understanding the signal that their body is giving them.
yeah.
Unfortunately, with the rise of ultra processed food, it seems that our brain is not comprehending what it needs because it has been confused. It has been
Yeah.
feed it has been fed with a lot of intensity. So our brain now has been trained to associate pleasure with intensity. I mean, this is the reason why 10 years ago it's chocolate fudge brownie. Now it's double chocolate and triple chocolate because
True.
we want more and more and more. And this is also the reason why Pepsi almost always wins the taste test challenge because the flavor profile of Pepsi compared to Coke is that Pepsi is sweet forward. So that
Mm,
3 seconds when they give the two samples blind test to people,
yeah.
people will always go for the sweeter option compared to the less sweet option.
Gotcha.
So I do think that when it comes to our health, we need a little bit of a reset. And I'm not saying that we need to eliminate high fat or high sugar or salty food.
Mm,
What I'm trying to say is that we just need to take a pause a little bit and to understand why we like certain food, why we don't like certain food.
yeah.
And there are ways to mask our dislikes around certain type of food. For example, if you tell your kids to eat vegetables and you yourself not eating vegetables, I think
Mm,
it's really unfair to expect your kids to have a different behavior to what you are
yeah.
mirroring.
Be the role model.
Yeah, well, don't just talk, but walk. Walk the talk.
Walk the talk,
Walk the
something like
talk.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think I believe that that's really important as well, and I think having the real food, if I'm allowed to say that, having the locally grown food, locally sourced food, food that's fresh, food that maybe even you grow yourself. I think that all of our listeners, regardless of how much space you have, you can probably grow something. I'm growing eggplants at the moment, which is kind of crazy because
They go everywhere
I
though.
didn't know how big they are.
They go everywhere. I have no issue with the size. I have an issue with how intrusive they are.
Yeah, we did plant eggplant right next to zucchini though, so they're
So
having a fight.
they're having a fight, and add cucumber to it and blueberries.
So eat local, eat fresh, and listen to your body.
Yes, and don't get too caught up with organic or whatever it is that the marketing department came up with. It's good if you can afford organic, but that is not the only way. Just because it's organic doesn't mean that it's somehow suddenly magical will make you a lot healthier. And just because you don't eat organic doesn't mean that you're not giving the best for your body. What Stephen is saying, I can't say it better. Eat real food at least 80% of the time. The 20% of the time, I still crave my McDonald's. I still crave my fake crab steak. I don't know why. I don't know whether that's the Asianness in me, but I love that fish cake, some kind of Japanese fake crab meat,
Absolutely.
which
Yeah.
if you Google and YouTube it, you probably wouldn't eat it anymore.
No.
Yes. But on that note, I'm really happy with the conversation that we have today because food plays such an important role for in our life. It's not only to feed us nutrients, it's not only to fulfill our calorie requirement, it's not just for our physical health, but it's also for our psychological health. That's the reason why people associate certain food with comfort food, right? And it's also something that is at the center of our life as a social being, because if you're anything like me, I enjoy food and drinks a lot more in a good company. So I do believe that if something is such an important integral part of your life, you want to make sure that that thing is nourishing you and not making you sick. And on that note, if you have any question, please don't be shy. Go to the comment section, DM me at Ask Dr. Vincent. I'm everywhere, and we will try to answer your question next week live on air. And on that note, I'm Dr. Vincent, and
I'm Stephen. Thank you very much for listening.
see you on the other side.